Hi there, welcome. This is Casey, and today I am doing a video on the digestive system. So we're going to be looking at some of the more basic form and function, or anatomy and physiology, of digestion. And we will also be taking a look at how the digestive system is seen in the iris. And in today's video, I'm going to be going into more detail than I generally would and have in prior videos on for iridology regarding digestion. So we're going to be looking at specific anatomy locations of the stomach, small intestines, and the large intestines as well. And we're going to be looking at where the different flexures are located, and we're going to be looking at the pylorus of the stomach and the cardia of the stomach, the top and the bottom of the stomach. So getting into a little bit more detail today on the iris chart regarding digestion. So we'll do a brief overview of digestion. We'll cover the iris chart. I do also want to speak to some of the energetic anatomy. So we'll be looking at the solar plexus chakra, Manipura. We'll be taking a brief look at the Dantian as regarded as one of the major power centers of the body in Chinese medicine. And then we have here also a chart of the nerves and how the nerve ganglion relate to the chakras. So we'll speak to some of that energetic anatomy, how it connects to the physical process of digestion. And that will be today's video. And then in future videos, we're going to be looking at much more specific signs that we may see. Where am I here? Okay. In the iris. So we're going to be talking about different dysfunctions of digestion. And at the end of the video, I will let you know how, if you would like to submit your iris photos for review, how to do that. And especially I'll be looking for people who have difficulty or dysfunction in this particular area of digestion. And then also in future videos, I will be going more into iris markings that are related to digestion. So we'll be looking at the pupillary margin, we'll be looking at the stomach halo, what all of these indicate, and we'll be looking at radii solaris and pigmentation within the digestive system, and anything else that may come up that may relate to digestion, such as strictures and ballooning of the bowels. I think I even have a little bit more from Bernard Jensen on how these certain features will look. So prolapses, ballooned bowels, spastic bowels, strictures, bowel pockets. So we'll be looking at diverticulitis or diverticulum. So yeah, if you have anything like that or anything that we mentioned in today's video that may come up, any kind of dysfunction of digestion, or if you just want to submit your photos, I will let you know how to do that at the end of the video. And for now, however, I want to start with just some basic anatomy and physiology of digestion. So I have an introduction from Bernard Jensen, which says the digestive system essentially consists of a lengthy tube or tunnel beginning at the mouth, dropping 10 inches or so down the esophagus, enlarging to form the stomach, then continuing as the intestine in a winding course through the abdomen to exit at the anus. The main digestive canal is assisted in its function by the pancreas, liver, and gallbladder. So these are considered sort of accessory organs of the digestive system. We will touch on all of those. The purpose of digestion is to break down food, both mechanically and chemically, so that it can be altered into a form suitable for assimilation in the stomach and small intestine, carried off by the blood and lymph, and ultimately made available for cell metabolism, the conversion of matter into energy, and the conversion of simple substances into more complex ones to perform cellular, intercellular, and systemic tasks. The human body is a wonderful, complex creation, and the digestive system is a vital and fascinating aspect to it. So while I'm thinking of it, Bernard Jensen has noted this, Farida, Sharan, Dorothy Hall. I'm also looking a little bit at German iridologist Theodore Kriege, and all of them have noted the significance, not only the central location or placement of the gut in the iris. So we have all of zone 1 and all of zone 2 occupied by the digestive system in the center of the eye, and then also just the amount, if you will, of real estate that the digestive system takes up in the iris is indicative of how important its function is in the body. And we also, just kind of as a side note, I think it's interesting, we also see that in the head and brain area. So when you're looking at the iris chart and then you're comparing it to the physical human, the amount of space in the iris chart that is devoted to the head and brain is quite a lot more so than the actual size of the brain, and same is true with the gut. Okay, so this is noted by Iridology, and we also just have that radii solaris phenomena that we see, where so much of the dysfunction, disharmony that's happening within the body, almost all of it, I would say, comes directly out of either the stomach or the intestinal area, and then radiates out to other parts of the iris and the body. So let's go ahead and get back to our simple explanation of digestion, and I'm just going to go through this again following Jensen's work. And he says, so we are starting out in the mouth and with the digestion in the mouth. He says, when we eat, the food molecules are broken into small particles in the mouth as we chew and are mixed with saliva, which, by the way, does have a pH ranging from 6.5 to 7.5 in the mouth. So that's part of how the process of digestion begins in the mouth. When we chew, we mix with saliva, which partly digests starches through the enzymes. As we swallow, the food passes down the esophagus to the stomach, where it is churned up further, mixed with pepsin, hydrochloric acid, and lipase, which aid in protein and fat breakdown, and liquefied until it is ready to be passed into the duodenum, the entryway into the small intestine. So we have the food being initially partially broken down by saliva and the physical process of mastication as well in the mouth. And then it travels down the esophagus and ends up in the stomach. Now, the stomach pH varies quite a bit, actually. The top of the stomach is the fundus, and that area, if all is as it should be a space for air. and also the other part of the top of the stomach. So as we have the esophagus transition into the stomach, we have here the cardia. Okay, so this top area is the cardia. I'm guessing named as such because of its location, proximity to the heart, cardi, core, center of the body. And then we also have the cardiac sphincter, which is the valve that the food passes through in the cardiac area as it enters into the stomach. Okay, so we have the upper part being the cardia, and then the very top of the stomach being the fundus, and then the center of the stomach being the body of the stomach. And I should mention that these areas also have a higher pH, so they're more alkaline. And then as you get down to the lower part of the stomach, you're getting into the pylorus. And we are going to be noting the cardia and the pylorus in the iris chart when we get to that. So there's also a pyloric valve, or known also as the pyloric sphincter, and that is the section of the stomach. It's the very last part of the stomach before the stomach transitions into the duodenum. So this area in here is, like I said, the pylorus, and then below that, this area, as the stomach transitions into the small intestines, and you can just imagine this is going behind the transverse colon and into the beginning of the small intestines. Okay, so that's the duodenum going into the small intestine. And let's see where we are with the description here. So in the duodenum, I think I can, I think the apple just wants to stay there for the time being. In the duodenum, the bile produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder is added along with the pancreatic juices. So we have in this area, we have the gallbladder, and then we have the pancreas. Let me get a different color. You can see the pancreas, right? So we have gallbladder in green up here, now purple, and then the pancreas below that. And there is this process where the pancreas and the gallbladder are both secreting fluids, and they go through the common bile duct. And these fluids are secreted through the common bile duct into the duodenum as the food is passing through the duodenum into the small intestine. Okay, so the bile, which is the only digestive juice that contains no enzyme, breaks up and emulsifies fat particles. So this is the bile produced by the liver and stored in the gallbladder. The bile also activates the pancreatic enzyme, just as hydrochloric acid activates pepsin in the stomach. The pancreatic juice helps digest carbohydrates and proteins and converts the fats partly processed by bile into fatty acids and glycerol. The intestinal juice contains 4 enzymes which complete much of the digestive process before the food is absorbed through the intestinal mucosa into the blood and lymph vessels that line the intestinal walls. During this process, the digesting food is being propelled along the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum of the small intestine by peristaltic motion, as the small intestine secretes hormones that signal the pancreas and liver to stop injecting digestive juice and bile into the duodenum. Okay, so we have the duodenum here, and then we have all of this area is small intestine. The first part of the small intestines are known as the jejunum, and then the last part of the small intestines are known as the ileum. Okay, and then so that last part of the ileum terminates into the cecum, and this is where we have the ileocecal valve. Okay, so we're seeing that this juncture here as the ileocecal valve, and that is where the food is going to go from the small intestines and begin its way up the ascending colon. All right, in the lower right quadrant of the abdomen, the remaining unabsorbed wastes are propelled into the cecum. The colon is slightly more than double the diameter of the small intestine and about 6 feet long. The ileum of the small intestine contains a one-way valve that allows waste to travel out but never back in. The waste, after passing through the cecum, is moved up the ascending colon on the right side of the body. So we have up the ascending colon, and across the transverse colon. So up the ascending colon and then across the transverse colon. And the flexure here, as the ascending colon transitions into the transverse colon, is called the hepatic flexure, known for its proximity to the liver, or it's also known as the right colic flexure, and then the next one you can guess will be the left colic flexure, also known as the splenic flexure. And that is here. Okay. Let's see, where are we? Just below the liver. Okay, so across the transverse colon, just below the liver and the stomach to the left side of the body, down the descending colon. So now we're going to go down the descending colon. And we're going to hit this area, this curve right here is the sigmoid colon. Down the descending colon to the sigmoid colon, which joins the rectum. When the rectum becomes enlarged with waste, the desire to defecate occurs and wastes are eliminated from the anus. Okay, so rectum and on out. Kind of want to get that. I kind of want to get that apple. And move it. And okay, so that's how all that works. The inside of the anal canal is lined with numerous mucus-coated folds, each containing an artery and a vein. And then lastly, after the blood carries off assimilated nutrients from the small intestine, they are delivered to the liver for further breakdown by metabolic processing of proteins, fats, and to a limited extent, carbohydrates. The liver also detoxifies the blood, removing alcohol and other chemicals that are not useful in cell metabolism. In the irides, the stomach is viewed as a whitish circle around the pupil, shaded according to the condition of the tissue. Okay, so we'll get to that in when we get to the stomach halo and different iris signs that we're going to see. related to the health of digestion in the eyes. But that for now is a brief summary of how digestion works, and then also a brief summary of the anatomy of the stomach and the intestines. And we're going to go straight into the iris chart now. Alright, so we have here an iridology chart, and the first thing I want to note is that in the right eye, in the medial portion of the stomach region, which is zone 1, we're going to see the pylorus. And both the pylorus and the cardia are in the medial portion of the stomach zone, which is zone 1, and medial meaning center, midline, towards the nose. And then outside of each of these respective zones, we have the stomach. So I'm going to read you a quick quote from Theodore Kriege regarding the placement of the pylorus and the cardia. He gets just a little bit more specific, although both Jensen and Kriege are telling the same story when it comes to the placement of the pylorus and then the stomach zone. And Kriege says in his book you can obtain is called Fundamental Basis of Iris Diagnosis. And Theodore Kriege is mentioned by Bernard Jensen in the introduction of his classic iridology textbooks, and was well-respected German iridologist, also had a great deal of experience and a lot of eyes under his belt. So he says, and he does draw a diagram in his book that's just a little bit, more specific, but he says the pylorus with about 1/3 of the stomach in the right half of the body, cardia and 2/3 of the stomach in the left half of the body. All organs on the right side have their place in the right iris, and all organs on the left side have their place in the left iris. Thus, pylorus and 1/3 of the stomach on the right side, the remaining 2/3 with cardia in the left iris. So we have that, and then as well, I want to mention that we have the small intestines also placed medially in both eyes. So in the right, here we have the small intestines, and in the left, we also have the small intestines medially. And you can see that on the outside of the small intestines, we have the autonomic nervous system, or the autonomic nerve wreath, as well as the mesentery. And I think I will mention that now before I forget. So the mesentery and the autonomic nervous system in the iris, I think I might show you this picture. It might give a little bit of a better understanding. So we can see, I'm gonna draw in the right eye here. We have the autonomic nerve system just sort of bordering the actual small intestines, and then within that you can see they have this artist has drawn in neurons or nerve cells along with this blue, which is indicating the mesentery. And mesentery, if you are a student of Dr. Morse's, you'll appreciate what I will tell you, and that is, you look up most anatomy and physiology explanations of mesentery, and that is simply that they consider it an organ that attaches the intestines to the abdominal wall, but it's a little bit more significant in the sense that it's full of, guess what, lymph nodes and lymph vessels. So it is a significant portion of the stomach to be looking at, or of the digestive system to be noting. So we have that mesentery and the autonomic nervous system placed all around in both eyes, surrounding the colon, both the small and large intestines. Okay, and I think I will go into the right eye first, and we're going to look at the colon in the right eye. So just to recap, we have the stomach, and specifically the pylorus and the cardia in both irises, right and left, in the first zone. And then outside of that, we have in both irises, we have the small and large intestines. The small intestines are medial, and then the colon or large intestine is lateral. Okay, so in the right eye, from Jensen's book, he says, starting with the right iris, the center of the transverse colon starts at 1 o'clock. So we have here 1 o'clock right at the forehead temple zone. You can see the transverse colon beginning in the right eye, making its way over to the medulla at 11 o'clock. And also it's fairly close to the mastoid process. So what we have here in that right iris is the hepatic flexure. So when you see this sort of turn or curve, and you're going to notice this, I always think of like plumbing, and I know nothing about plumbing, so I don't know why I'm using this analogy, but when you think of how you have to create, if you want to create a turn, sometimes there are like extra pipes inserted, and regardless, sort of like intersections, regardless of how you would describe it, you can see that when you see these turns and twists, especially at the flexure points, I have noticed when I've looked at eyes that a lot of the time, and then I've of course confirmed it through the experts in the textbooks, that a lot of the times at these flexures, you're going to see a darker area indicating a higher level of toxicity, and then that will reflex into the areas outside of that. So a lot of times you're going to see a darker area. Even quite often you will see a lesion at this 11 o'clock area, and that will directly be affecting the medulla brain zone, and quite often also the mastoid bone, okay, at the near the ear, the mastoid process and that whole mastoid bone. So that's the right eye, transverse colon, and then also we have the ascending colon in the lateral portion of the right eye. And then as we get down, we follow the ascending colon down, we're going to see that we have the duodenum, and that is here in the right eye. And the duodenum is actually, you're going to notice the same thing. And they do note in iridology that, you know, for the most part, when you see breaks in the autonomic nerve wreath, usually that is a sign of some kind of imbalance or dysfunction going on, but there is a natural break in this case where the duodenum is, and the duodenum is very much connected to, so this whole section, the gallbladder and the liver. So again, you will often see if there are dark markings or lesions in the duodenum area, it will quite often also extend through to the gallbladder and the liver. Okay, and then following that, we have the cecum, and also we have the appendix. And Jensen does note that he saw a lot of misdiagnosis with appendicitis, and this is one reason I'm doing this particular video. It's not normal with most people and all of your clients or with yourself that you're going to be getting this specific with the stomach and bowel area, but he has talked about the fact that, like I said, a lot of misdiagnosis going on with appendicitis, and with iridology, this safe and non-invasive technique of diagnosis, you can actually see the difference between the inflammation of the cecum and the actual appendix. Okay, and let's see what else. I'm not seeing anything more I want to say about the right eye, but I probably will. Let's, for now though, go into the left eye. So we have in the left eye the transverse colon. Oh yeah, I do want to talk about the Peyer's patches, but for now, let's look at the left eye. The transverse colon begins at 11 o'clock. It ends around 1 o'clock. Again, at the medulla or the mastoid. And again, we have another flexure here, and this would be the splenic flexure. So you may notice again the darkness and the referral or the toxicity radiating out from that area of the colon. And then we have the descending colon in the left eye, and then we have this sort of sigmoid flexure. So the sigmoid colon itself is the last part of the colon, and it ends in the rectum, and it is sort of somewhat shaped in an S curve, and you can see that here at the sigmoid flexure. And so again, you're going to see, and Dorothy Hall actually talks about this in her book, the referral of toxicity from the sigmoid colon. She talks about it going into the testes and ovary area and affecting, in her book, she talks about sexuality and how that can affect that, and anxiety. So anytime you see any curves in the colon, you're going to be looking, and anytime you see darkness, quite often you're going to notice that it's at a flexure. And then also, just real quick, Jensen talks about the fact that the colon is the most toxic place found in the iris, generally speaking, and that the whole entire, the small and large intestines, but that the colon itself, the large intestine, is even more toxic than the rest of the colon, and that the descending colon is the most toxic place in his experience that he saw in iridology. And I know there are a lot of dysfunctions and dis-ease related to that sigmoid colon. So, but we have here the curve after the descending colon, the sigmoid flexure, and then the sigmoid colon. Again, we're going to see a break in the autonomic nerve wreath as it goes out into the rectum and anus. Okay, I did want to also mention, let's see, what did Jensen say? Transverse colon begins at 11, ends around 1 o'clock, where the descending colon drops down to the sigmoid colon at about 5 o'clock. The sigmoid colon turns radially outward just prior to 7 o'clock, where the rectum and anus proceed outward to the periphery of the iris. Okay, and then I want to mention the Peyer's patches, and those are found in the small intestine, in both eyes, and they are just inside of the thyroid. So I'm going to start with the right eye. The Peyer's patches are in this area approximately, and then in the left eye you just look at the thyroid and you go to where the small intestine is. So in the second zone you're going to find the Peyer's patches, and again, significance related to the lymphatic system. And Jensen says in his book, this is volume 2, I have discovered the area for Peyer's patches between 2 and 3 o'clock in the right iris and between 9 and 10 o'clock in the left iris. And he notes Peyer's patches are, and you can look this up and research Peyer's patches, independently of iridology. Peyer's patches are important lymph follicles, and when they are congested, extreme fevers often follow, as well as interference with assimilation of nutrients. It is my belief that this portion of the small intestine is the most important in the process of digestion and assimilation, because when lesions are found in this area, invariably the individual shows signs of insufficient assimilation. So this is something where if you see something going on, like a dark pupillary margin, and again, I'm going to do a separate video on the pupillary margin, but if you see a dark, uneven, jagged pupillary margin, which would be here in the right eye, there may also be an association with the Peyer's patches, and which is, simply put, chronic and possibly even degenerative lymphatic congestion. Okay, and that is Peyer's patches, and I also mentioned the mesentery. And we spoke about the flexures, and I think that might be it. Let me just look real quick here. For now, there's so much to talk about in terms of looking at the specific flexures and so on. We can also see, let's just take a quick look at the accessory organs. So we also have the thyroid is not considered an organ of digestion, but you may take a look at it if someone has slow digestion. It is significant, and it, according to Dorothy Hall, also has some connection in her experience to the Peyer's patches. So we have the thyroid, and then of course we have the, just look at the right eye. We have the esophagus right about 3 o'clock. And then, of course, we have right around 2 o'clock, we have the tonsils and the larynx and pharynx. And then above that, we have the tongue, mouth, and lower jaw. So all of this you would be looking at in terms of digestion. And then, of course, I mentioned the liver and gallbladder. We also have the pancreas. You will very often see disturbance or markings. If you're looking at the pancreas, you will often note that there is something going along with the pancreas in the colon area. Alright, so moving forward, and I should probably note while we still have this chart up, the solar plexus. And this is the physical solar plexus. I'm planning at some point to do a video on all of the chakras as seen in the iris. I'm just thinking of this now because I know the thymus gland and the heart chakra would be in the heart, the physical heart itself. So the chakras are always just a breath away, just a frequency or a bandwidth away from the physical organs. They're sort of just a higher frequency of that physical organ, and then the energy is streamed through the chakras to form the physical being. So I will at some point tie that together in a video, but for now let's look at what we're looking at, which is the digestive system and the solar plexus. The physical solar plexus is found in the left eye below the heart. I'm going to highlight that here, which is actually, it would be close to the entry point of the actual chakra in the body, which is at the belly or the navel. Alright, so let's take a quick look at our chakras and the nervous system chart, and this picture on the right is basically just showing the relationship of the nervous system to the more ethereal chakra system. And it is showing how the openings of those chakras are placed mainly in the front of the body, and with the exception of the root chakra, which is pointed more down towards the earth, and the crown chakra, which is placed directly above the head and connected to the heavens. All right, and then I want to just go through some of the key elements of the solar plexus or Manipura center. And this is from my Kundalini Tantra book, and I'll read you just a paragraph because it is so well written. Manipura is derived from two Sanskrit words, mani meaning jewel and pura meaning city. Therefore, Manipura literally means city of jewels. In the Tibetan tradition, this chakra is known as Mani Padma, which means jeweled lotus. So this center, you can see how, so it's right here in the center. I'm in the left picture now, and it's interesting because they've used, it looks like a calendula flower, which is a really, it's a perfect match energetically speaking. It relates to the digestive system, and I've done some little short videos on that and talked about that, how calendula is really good for the lymphatic congestion, not only lymphatic congestion, but that is in the gut area. So actually all of these, most of these flowers that they've chosen in this art do correspond to their physical function and their ethereal meaning. So so we have the jeweled lotus, and the center is very sparkly. Whether or not you have the gift of seeing energy, sometimes you'll see colors and flashes, or you may just get a sense of energy in certain energetic centers. This one in particular is quite golden and shimmery and sparkly. It is like the sun rising and the sun setting. And a lot of times you'll see the second chakra, which is here represented by this hibiscus, You'll see colors, and even up into the heart where we see that beautiful pink rose. You'll see different colors sort of bleeding through and combining and coalescing into the chakras themselves. So we do have this brilliant center that is, its element is fire. And what does fire relate to? Digestion. Okay, and then just quickly too, while I'm drawing here, we have the elements of the chakras do have an order. So the root chakra is indicated in this picture by the roots here of this like fruit flower tree. And the root chakra is the heaviest element, and that is earth. And then the second chakra is water, and then the third is fire. The fourth, the heart, is air, and we just go up and up until we reach ether, and then we get to a place where there are no physicality of elements. It's just pure source, and that would be the crown chakra. So Manipura is a very important center as far as the awakening of Kundalini Shakti is concerned. It is the center of dynamism, energy, willpower, and achievement. Okay, so those are like really key words for the solar plexus. It's confidence. It's how well you can express yourself. It is willpower. It is individuality, it is strength, it is the ability to take steps in life with the confidence that, you know, life will provide what you need. And it is often compared to the dazzling heat and power of the sun, very much like the microcosmic sun here. And I will, at some point, we'll talk about some of the plants along with calendula. I really like St. John's wort for the center as well. Because St. John's wort is the microcosmic sun in terms of botanicals, as far as I'm concerned. So we're looking at the power of the sun, without which life on earth would not exist. In the same way that the sun continually radiates energy to the planets, Manipura chakra radiates and distributes pranic energy throughout the entire human framework, regulating and energizing the various activities of organs, systems, and processes of life. Okay, so that's a healthy solar plexus center that you're going to be relating to whether someone has a healthy digestive center. If you're correlating the physical and the energetic when you're looking at a full spectrum approach to healing. When deficient, so when it is deficient, guess what you will be seeing in the physical iris? You will be seeing darker markings and heterochromia and darker stomach halos, so darker color in the center and even darker lesions and things of that nature. And when you see that, this is what it would relate to. When deficient, it is more like the glowing embers of a dying fire rather than a powerful, intense blaze. In this state, the individual is rendered lifeless, vitally deficient, and devoid of energy. He will be hindered by poor health, depression, and lack of motivation and commitment in life. So these are all keywords, and that is sort of in a nutshell what the solar plexus chakra represents. And when you're looking at dysfunction of the solar plexus chakra, let me go ahead and let me see if there's anything else I want to say on this page. And we'll just take a quick look. I know I could just go on and on and on with the chakras. Probably will at some point more so, but anyway, I want to try to keep this video under an hour. I don't know where we're at, so you can see, I can't see right now. You can see right now if I succeeded or if I failed. But I just want to be looking at this picture and we're thinking about the function of digestion and also how it relates to the energy or the concept of one's choices. So what you bring into your body is your choice for the most part. And when you make those choices, you have to then you have to be responsible for those choices. And that is what we're looking at when we're looking at the solar plexus and digestion. So once you put something in your body, it has, unless you have an eating disorder, which if you do have an eating disorder, if you're working with someone who does, it's this center that is mostly affected, because it's like, bringing something into the body and then not feeling comfortable with that thing, that food, that liquid, in whatever amount in the body, and then trying to get rid of it. Okay, so it's what we put into our body. It's how well we are able to digest our food, but also the energy around us. How do we deal with others in harmony or disharmony? Do we hold on to, and this would relate more to digestion and constipation, and then the opposite of constipation. So some people have a really hard time letting go and they hold on to things, and this would be related to that solar plexus. And then some people can't really hold on to things and things just move right through them, and so they're not holding their power. All right. So we have here self-esteem, self-identity, sense of purpose, individual will, digestion, metabolism. There are many ways you can work on healing the solar plexus. To put it simply, you're going to bring frequencies in. May they be foods, stones, so there's a lot of crystals that would be helpful. Sounds, so whatever sound resonates with that solar plexus would be helpful. And just the general environment that one may find themselves in has a lot to do with the health of the solar plexus. So who are you surrounding yourself with? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel happy when you're with certain people? Do certain people give you the feeling of disempowerment? All these things of that nature. So I want to wrap this up and tie this all into the physical nature of digestion. So some of the imbalances of the solar plexus or Manipura chakra will result in malabsorption, constipation, IBS, ulcers, eating disorders, diabetes, pancreas issues, liver disease, and colon cancer. And then I also have some more disorders I wanted to mention. So if you have any of these, if you're experiencing any of these imbalances, then I would be interested in seeing your eyes, and I'll get to that in just a minute. We also have gastritis, parasites. So parasites would be in a chronic, darker environment in the digestive system. Any kind of difficulty, inability of digestion, especially with fats and carbs, diverticulitis, I think we mentioned already, prolapsus, colitis, I think we mentioned malabsorption, and then of course we mentioned constipation, IBS, and enteritis, so which is inflammation of the small intestines. So if you have any of these conditions and you would like to submit your eyes, I will tell you how to do that. So I've had a couple, 2, 3 iris submissions. I've just put up a couple of posts and invited people to do that. And I have done, if you did submit your eyes, thank you. And I know I haven't mentioned this on any of the videos, but if you did submit your eyes, I did like a 5-minute video for you. And I did have the intake form set up to where you could only you could only submit one eye, and I did fix that. So if you want to submit your other eye, you're welcome to. I'm not going to be doing any more videos, but what I do want to do is have a catalog, and this would just be for us, for the iridology community, for anybody interested in iridology. I feel like it would be a nice it would be something I would like to offer to the community, where we can start building this library or catalog of irises. So all that I'm going to do, I'm not going to do the videos. I might at some point offer like a service where you could purchase like a 5-10 minute video, depending on my time availability. But all I'm going to do from this point on is put a picture of your eyes, and then whatever you tell me about your health and your family's health history, and then I will make notes about what I see from the iridology perspective. And then we can build this library, hopefully over time, you know, depending on how many submissions and how much time I have to record everything. Okay, so you can do that. I will put a link in the description box. It's just a link to my website. You fill out a form, and then you just send your eyes in. And the 3 people so far that have sent eyes in, I will see if I can tie in to the next couple of videos, because we can see right away the first eye. We have a stomach halo that we can talk about. Then the second eye has a smaller pupil, which may come up. And also we can see that there is a lot going on in the pupillary margin in the second eye. So I probably will use this one also at some point in the next video for digestion. And then this one has something of a little bit of a larger pupil. And then a lot of radii solaris, little minor radii solaris coming out from the pupillary margin. Okay, so that's, if you feel like doing that, great, I would love it. And you may or may not see your eyes in upcoming videos. It totally just depends, but at the least I will write what I see along with any of the conditions that you've been diagnosed with, or that you have a family history of, or just things that you know from your symptoms. You don't have to have a doctor, diagnose it, but if you have, that's great too. So, all right, I think that's it, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.